Hey guys, it's Angela Shelton. I just want to warn you, this is 101 Ways to Heal That Shit. Though it is funny, and we are very irreverent and comical, we're dealing with some huge issues here, so trigger warning, trigger warning. Adults only. We talk about some heavy stuff. So that would be child sexual abuse, rape, domestic violence. So we don't go into super details, obviously, but I just want to trigger warn you. You know, some things come up with Aly and I talking that were unexpected to us even. Forgive us. We've known each other 20-something years almost, and we use some archaic equipment here and there. We're in the car at some points. You know, we're trapped inside of a closet at other times. Oh, so many reasons behind that. So just prepare yourself. I recommend that you listen to them all in order, just because you'll find out some tidbits about my BFF and I that you probably didn't know. But you don't have to. You can just pick, random. There are 101 episodes, for crying out loud. But I just wanted to give you a trigger warning. Trigger warning. Welcome to the ride. Welcome to 101 Ways to Heal That Shit.
101 Ways to Heal That Shit with your host, Angela Shelton.
And Aly Drummond, that's her over there.
I thought you were hosting this thing.
Well, I am, but you are integral.
Thank you. That's actually the nicest thing anyone's said to me in a really, really long time. That should probably be one of the 101 things. You are integral.
Should it be 101 Ways to Heal Your Shit or that shit?
That shit.
Why?
Actually, it's funny that you should say that. It's actually a complicated discussion because in adult entertainment, in porn, right?
You'll
notice. No, we won't. But you'll notice that when you see, like and I hope this is okay in a healing podcast, but in like adult entertainment, there tends to be the body parts are objectified, shockingly enough. So you refer to that ass and that other thing, that foot, that things. And so if this is like heal that shit, right? Maybe we do need to actually pull it closer and say that it's mine or yours. Heal my shit. Heal our shit. A mo, a mass, a mat.
And we'll get to porn because we will circle back there because that's how we met. I'm Angela Shelton. I don't even know how to sum myself up, so I'm going to let my BFF D, that's duh, best friend forever, duh, BFF D, Aly Drummond. Hi, Aly.
Hi. Listen,
Hi.
I don't know if I want the word duh in my name or my title. It's even better. I have duh in my title.
Fair enough. You're just Aly Drummond.
Oh, well, I'm not put on the spot at all then, am I? That's fine. This is Angela Shelton. She had an amazing acting career. It was really taking off, and she got you remember you wrote the script for that Gina Rowlands film.
Oh yeah.
And like you were really sort of heading somewhere in Hollywood, and like who were your peers?
Tumbleweeds.
Your peers? Oh, Tumbleweeds.
Let's backtrack. I'm a model. I started off modeling.
I know. I was
writing.
I thought I was the one.
Sorry.
And so you were like part of this group of people who were really like their careers were really taken off. And what you were listed in, what was it?
Oh my God,
Variety. Yes,
one of the screenwriters to watch.
Yeah, not female screenwriters or like white screenwriters or anything like that. Of course,
I'm female and I'm white, by the way.
But no, just one of the top 10 screenwriters to watch.
It's true.
And like it was really like she was really going places. And like who were your peers at the time? There was like.
Charlie
probably,
Kaufman.
Yeah, or like Brad Pitt, or what's his name from Swingers? What's his name?
Jon Favreau?
Yeah, Jon Favreau.
Yeah, it was in his TV show.
Yeah, so stuff like that.
You're referring to way back when I was acting and I was on like Pacific Blue.
Weren't you
Chicago.
making out with one of the guys in Depeche Mode?
I was in the clean video.
Yeah. And then she decided, I'm going to make this comedy about women in America. So I'm just going to drive around and interview all the women in America who share my name, because that's a good random thing. A good true. Random way of of choosing people. And the hilarity ensued.
Oh, God.
And unfortunately, it was great because it actually probably saved thousands of lives. But in the process, it kind of killed your Hollywood career. I mean, is this too much information? I don't know how far deep I should go into this rabbit hole. I
think that in talking about 101 ways to heal that shit, we should really tell the truth.
That's true.
You're just silent.
That's true.
We can't. No, staring at me with silence.
No, it was, but it was with like respectful silence. Like, you're absolutely right.
Well, I mean, why not?
If we're going to do this shit, we may as well actually tell the truth.
Well, I mean, that's my problem, right? I have always tended to blatantly just blab out the truth. I am a double Sagittarius. But...
She also just tends to blab. So anyway, so that led, actually, I mean, it may have, yes, sure, it derailed something, but, when one door closes, another one opens and all that stuff. And so Angela ended up on this very long and complex and incredible journey of healing many, many thousands of people, including herself.
Can I jump in here?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like you don't really know the subject matter as well as I do.
Shall we talk about how we met?
What? Okay, but let's not talk about that moment in the elevator. If we can just talk about everything else and skip over that particular moment, and then we'll just...
Everyone, all of our 42 listeners right now are going to want to know what that means. What does that mean, that moment in the elevator?
You know what we could do? We could say that you've got to wait to the last episode. Episode 101.
There are going to be 101 episodes.
Right, and so if you listen to all 101 episodes, the truth of the elevator will be revealed, baby. Anyway, so moving right along, Angela was told that she was too female to direct a film. So she decided to direct a film because, seriously, F that. So she decided that she would interview all the other Angela Sheltons in America.
Okay, yeah, you're right. So I made Searching for Angela Shelton.
Okay.
It's my turn. Well, what happened is I thought it was going to be funny, and I was just going to survey women in America. It was going to be hilarious. Then I was going to come back and direct this other comedy that I still have on my desk that I think is hilarious. But what happened is 70% of the Angelas I talked to had been either through sexual violence, rape, or child sexual abuse, rape, or domestic violence, in that order. Sometimes and or, because they had all three. So that's definitely not funny. And then it became personal because one of the Angela Sheltons was tracking sexual predators, and she lived in the same town as my father, who molested me and my siblings. And I hate the word molested because it's so it sounds like a clown car. I'm going to molest it. When really it's total sexual violence and sexual abuse.
It's like the word spree.
Spree.
I'm going to go on a molestation spree.
It looks so, it's so, what's the word?
Inappropriate.
Or it's not heavy enough. Molested.
It's too light.
Yeah. So anyway, we were sexually abused, my siblings and I, by my father, and he was living in the same town as one of the Angela Sheltons, and we arrived on Father's Day. And that's what sent me into my own personal journey of facing all my shit, literally, when I confronted my dad as he was leaving for church.
So it's like a shit spree.
How ironic.
So let's talk about what this podcast is. We've talked about who you are. I really don't matter.
Yes, you do.
I've got
it's
dark
very,
in my
very
title.
Important who you are. and why you're here.
The way you phrase that, I'm like waiting. Remember those shows they used to have where like someone comes into like a movie theater and they sit down and they think that they're watching like, I don't know, like a juggling show or something, and then they're like, Aly Drummond, this is your life.
Oh God!
And suddenly, like the whole audience is like people they went to kindergarten with like 60 years ago.
I missed that show.
Oh,
you're older than me.
Yeah, but I'm not so old that I would have made out with the guy from Depeche Mode.
Oh my God. Bring that back. Okay. Okay, what is this show about? First of all, we can do a whole little, we can find out who each of us are in 101 episodes, number one.
Yeah.
But
I'm sure we both have a lot of shit.
Because we have a lot of shit. But really, the short cliff notes is I had a big Hollywood career, or at least was setting into one, because I was listed as the top 10 screenwriters to watch, blah, blah, blah. I love you, Charlie Kaufman. And then I made the documentary, which threw me into my own healing journey. And I went on a path, and I actually went and learned all these healing techniques that we're going to share. So what I wanted to do was actually share all of the different shit we learned. So let's back up. Here I was, I made the documentary. I was sitting in my garage, in my little cute little house that we filmed the cooking show, Stirring Up Trouble in.
Stir up trouble. Stir up trouble. Stir up trouble.
StirringUpTrouble.com.
Which Aly narrated. Okay, so in that little house, I was sitting in my garage, and I was thinking about porn. See how it comes back to porn? I told you we'd come back to porn. And also we have vaginas. We're going to talk about that too, because, when you have a vagina, if you notice, you talk around subjects and you always come back to that one point eventually. If you hello?
I was just wondering, like, as far as like going around vaginas and then having trouble coming to the point. And I'm like, ladies, if you really have trouble finding the point in your vagina, then please get in touch with your nearest Pure Romance consultant. Exactly. PureRomance.com for all your vaginal needs.
Oh my God, that's awesome. It's so true. The point is, we're talking all over the place, but it's always going to come back to that one point. So I was sitting in my garage thinking about porn because I had my documentary done and I was trying to figure out, this is way in the beginning of the internet.
Before YouTube.
Yeah, this is
Technically, it wasn't the beginning of the internet, but it was pre-YouTube.
It was pre-YouTube. It was 2000 and 2001. This is before Facebook. I'd gotten the documentary. I was online. I was doing forums. I mean, I was like early on there. And I was thinking, not that I visit porn sites, but I mean, I am the daughter of my father, who certainly was into porn. And I was like, how do I find a way to have the movie up online where people can watch it, they can have videos, we can talk back and forth, basically what we're doing now, like with Facebook and everything. Like, I was curious, how do we do that and have it work? And the only thing that I've seen that actually works and doesn't break is porn. So I was doing like this little prayer, because I do those things. I was like, dear God, bring me somebody in the porn industry. Because that makes sense. And lo and behold, I get this email out of nowhere. Hello, darling. I'm Aly Drummond in the email, because the email itself had an English accent. And it was you, Aly, who's sitting in front of me. And she sent me, at the time I had my Amazon wish list up on my blog. And first of all, she sent me this email and she says, darling, I hate to insult you, but your website is terrible. This is one of the reasons I love Aly, because she just says what she thinks. And she sent me my entire wish list. Like everything. I'm not joking. Like I had, when you have a wish list, like there's tables. I had outdoor furniture on there. And she literally sent me every single thing on my wish list.
Now, if I can interject just for a moment.
Do it, please.
Part of that problem was I'd accidentally seen the documentary because it played on Lifetime television, and it affected me, and it was a very powerful documentary, and I was very grateful for it. So when I got home, I decided to look up more. And went to this website.
Back up and tell how you saw it. And you were sailing. It's a good story.
So I was living in Los Angeles at the time, and I was part of a racing team on a sailboat. And we're having a race out of Newport Beach, California. And so I was sharing a room in a rather dingy hotel with a crew member, and she couldn't get to sleep without the television on, which is
annoying.
It's a good reason to send your kids to a Waldorf school, in my opinion. But anyway, so I can't sleep with the TV on. So I just had to sort of lie there with the TV on. And it was Lifetime television. And Angela's documentary came on. And it definitely spoke to me on a personal level. And so I kept watching. I found it really compelling because suddenly you go from, I've been a lifelong feminist and very sex positive and all that stuff. But what I found was, and I'd also been an activist for my adult life up until that point. And Angela was monumentally compelling because suddenly here we have this former model, right? So this cute female, frankly, who's also very engaging and smart, talking about child abuse. And she does it in a way that lifts you up and really inspires you, and then leaves you in a heap of blubbering tears.
And that's what we're going to do here today, folks.
But my point is that normally, up until that point, the kind of people that had been talking about childhood sexual abuse or women's issues or anything like that just tended to be more like me, sort of angry lesbians who... Oh,
you just gave yourself away.
That's true. I mean, no, you know what? That's not fair. We're going to edit that out.
Why?
Don't say that. Don't say that. Because it's not... because I don't want to mis-stereotype lesbians. Lesbians have always been badly stereotyped throughout history, and that's just not fair. It's true, but it's not fair. So...
So I don't edit that out.
Up until that point, when you met someone in the media who was addressing childhood sexual abuse or, women's issues, Me Too type stuff, they weren't usually very compelling, accessible people. They tend to be sort of academics or...
What are you saying? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I'm kind of saying that, but it's a good thing, Angela. That Angela was this very accessible, cute, young thing who was going around in an RV, and there was good music and all this kind of stuff. So it was just a very, very cutting edge, completely disruptive way of addressing this issue.
Of healing your shit.
Millennials probably wouldn't necessarily recognize the difference now, but at that point in time, in the early O's, there really wasn't very much entertaining stuff out there about childhood molestation. And it completely changed my life.
So she sends me my entire wish list.
So I went to Angela, when I got home, I went to Angela's website, and it was terrible. And I noticed on her website that she had a wish list, like an Amazon wish list, and you could go on there and you could see all the things that she wanted from Amazon. And there was tons of stuff. There was furniture for the outdoors and a lot of books, which was mainly what Amazon had at that point in time, shockingly enough. And tons of stuff, thousands of dollars worth of stuff. And I was like, this is great. I love you. You're great. So I just ordered everything and sent it to her. And at the time I could do that because I had this job where I had a lot of money. And so I didn't, I was very happy to take as much money as it took to say thank you to someone who's just changed my life.
And then she met me.
And so what I noticed though was from Amazon. You could see when something's delivered, right? So I, in my infinite wisdom, just like picked everything and said, okay, ship to Angela Shelton. And then I realized, of course, that it's not all coming in one like giant helicopter that's going to land on her lawn and dump all this shit on her front lawn. So it comes in like dribs and drabs.
Oh yeah,
and
I started getting packages.
Like a book a day, a book here, a book there, and a table,
furniture.
Right?
What the hell, stalker?
So I'm watching this, and I realize that she's now gone through like multiple days of getting multiple different packages from this one person.
Woohoo!
And so that's creepy. So then I realized I better contact her to say, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm not stalking you. So I emailed her and I said, hello, Angela. By the way, your website is terrible.
It's true.
I would just like to let you know, however, that I'm the person that's been sending you stuff from Amazon, and I am not stalking you, and I apologize profusely for scaring you if that's what I ended up doing.
And I said, oh my God, thank you so much. I can't even believe it. Yada, yada, yada. I'm so glad you liked my documentary, blah, blah. And then I know my website sucks. And then she said something to the effect of, I can help you fix that if you like. But, and then she gave me this long disclaimer.
Okay.
And you were like, I don't know if you'd even like to talk to me. It was this whole apologetic disclaimer.
No, I wasn't apologetic, right?
You were warning. It was like a warning.
Ashamed. No. Yeah, I was saying, listen, like, I'd love to help you, but there's a very strong possibility that you can't deal with me. You can't have anything to do with me.
Right.
Because you're in the child abuse arena. Because I work in adult entertainment.
What? And I went, no way. I was just praying about that. I literally was just saying a little prayer. Dear God, bring me somebody from the porn industry. Would you by chance know somebody in your industry who knows about video streaming and like the back end stuff, a different kind of back end, and how to do subscription models and make the videos work, etc., etc.? And she said, why, yes, that's me.
So yes.
And I said, come over right now. Where do you live? I said, I have a women-only full moon party every month, and it just happens to be a full moon, and I'm having one. Why don't you come over?
And that was funny, actually. Not that you had a women's only full moon party, because she's in LA, right? In LA, people do that stuff. But that it was actually a full moon.
Yeah, well, right there. And it was that day, and I was like, why don't you just come over? And she was like, okay.
Yeah. So it's like kismet, synergy. It was to be, and of course it was a gift from God. I was a gift from God. I was in management, and I was a public speaker and stuff like this. So
she was very famous in the porn industry, by the way.
So I came over, and
she never left. We became best friends, and she never left my house.
Yeah.
And here we are, umpteen million years later.
I did actually leave eventually.
Well, I left too. So here we are. So during the process of Aly becoming my best friend and like literally like essentially moving in, she got to witness firsthand me going on all this journey to learn all these healing techniques. Because what happened was the documentary was going gangbusters way back then, and I was going on all these speaking engagements on all these different college campuses all over the country and the world. I ended up going overseas. And as I was sharing about the documentary, I realized that so many of us were actually really in a lot of pain, including myself. Like, had I continued on the path of that variety ad of the 10 screenwriters to watch or whatever, and never done my documentary and never dealt with it, I probably would be a pill popper and like alcoholic and never dealt with the shit and have all kinds of issues that I see so many other people have that never dealt with it. I got thrown in head first into the well of hell and had to come out the other side. So it's turned my life upside down and like completely changed my life, kind of like yours was totally turned upside down the day that you arrived at my house. but in a very grateful way. Just like now I'm like, I'm so grateful that happened because it actually changed my life for the better. And it threw me into learning all these healing techniques that we will share over the next 101 episodes.
I think that 101 ways to heal is a way to take every bit of information that you've put together overall, that you've acquired and accumulated over all of these years, and put it out there in segments for the rest of the world, so that basically you can get on with your Hollywood career. Oh, not Hollywood, film. We're not even really in Hollywood.
We're not in Hollywood. We're indies.
We're in Lewis.
We're with the English. Our distributors are English. I love them. I love them. And we have 2 movies coming out.
Open, honest communication and fancy things like that.
Flash forward, Aly and I are still working on the healing things and the movies. We have 2 movies coming out this year.
Yes.
Eagle and the Albatross and The Hammer.
The Hammer.
Oh my God, I love it so much.
But we're not going to talk about that right now.
We're not.
The point is that without healing her shit to some extent, I think we're always going to be working on that, Angela probably wouldn't have made something like The Hammer, which is an incredibly powerful film. She was a screenwriter to look out for. She, was definitely a talented and compelling person. But if you've still got these wounds, they're always going to get in the way of your performance, your productivity, your sense of being in the world. And I guess you already know that because you're actually listening to this podcast. And so I think this is your way of Angela's way of just taking everything she knows and putting it out there in the most accessible, simple way possible. Now, you do have other things out there. So you've got you've got the Survivor Manual.
Yeah, I have a survivormanual.com. That's a whole community where other authors add in all different healing techniques of how to. That's all about inspiring and empowering survivors to lead joyful lives, like have a happy ending.
And there's the healing workbook where people can go through a process of removing what's referred to as a sword. This is like the sword of trauma. So
we'll do a whole episode on that.
We will. Okay. So anyway.
So then I have a healing course. It's on Survivor Manual. It's a year-long healing course that can take you through. So if you want a video, you can go and watch that. But this is a podcast.
And of course, there's also the documentary Searching for Angela Shelton. And the book.
And there's
Finding
a book.
Angela Shelton.
And I was like listening to Angela Shelton.
And so,
shut up already.
And so then I'm like, for God's sake, Angela, can you stop with this healing stuff? Let's just get it over with. No, I'm just kidding. So I'm like, for God's sake, Angela, let's just get all of the healing stuff out there, make it very accessible to everyone, and then let's move on to making another movie.
We're going to do 101 episodes. Are you ready?
Are we doing it now?
And we're going to talk about everything. Right? Like the most common questions that I got on the road and comments secretly, because I have that thing where people tell me their dirtiest, darkest secrets and they're not going to tell anybody else. A major one is sex and having healthy sex after you've been raped, and what to do when you think about your abuser. Like what? Like why not talk about it? Like it's a podcast. You're going to be listening to it alone, by the way, probably in your car while you're working out. Might as well talk about healing that shit. Like the dark, scary stuff too.
That should be kind of fun to have 101 ways to heal that shit listening parties. Could host a listening party.
They do that with my healing course. They do where you can have a whole group or your support group or whatever, and you all do the steps in the healing course with the workbook.
I think most people just do that, so then you have to buy one workbook between 12 people.
Well, that's okay.
Okay, whatever.
It's not a way to, this is not a money maker. This is
clearly. Oops, there goes another Hollywood career.
This is a way to, this is my service work is what it is.
So why don't I ask you some questions?
Okay. This is still the intro? Is it relevant to the intro?
Yeah.
Okay, because otherwise I'll stop and start for episode 1 after we pee.
Right. we've covered how you sort of accidentally tripped into the trauma world.
Did we?
You were this ex-model. You decided to make a documentary and suddenly discovered this horrible truth.
Yeah, as I was traveling, that's true. As I was traveling with the documentary, I started meeting all these thousands of survivors and organizations and the people that worked in the organizations and everyone from social workers to police officers, to trauma-informed care workers, and saw that every single one of them had a story. Like everyone, even like taking the taxi from the airport to the speaking engagement, you're talking to the taxi driver and they have a story and you're like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Now, I've watched the documentary a couple of times, and so I know the journey quite well, but can you describe the moment you realized that you weren't making a comedy, that the whole thing was about to shift on its head?
Oh, wow. That was in New York City, exactly halfway through making the movie when I had run out of money. And I was in like work mode of like getting the money to continue making the movie. I was writing a script, sending it back to LA to get the next payment for my script fee. And I was just not thinking about how relevant and how much my story was in the movie. I was plotting out our next couple days and figuring out how to pay for it, honestly. And then I said to my crew that I was like, it's crazy that there's this one Angela Shelton that I've talked to that she's tracking sexual predators and we're going to go see her. However, at that point we didn't realize that when we looped around, we were going to end up in her town on Father's Day. And Father's Day was not a day that I really celebrated. And I just talked to my crew. I was just like opening up to them, like I didn't let them know like, hi, I'm totally out of money. I said, I've been going over the Angelas and it's crazy. I think I'm going to have to really talk about my dad's story also. So at some point I should probably pull over and like interview myself about my story. I've been thinking about that. And they looked at me like I was an absolute moron. They were all sitting across from me in the RV. And I'm like, well, yeah, you're going to go to see your dad. And my sound guy, he goes, I brought my tomahawk. He actually had brought a tomahawk with him.
Like an axe?
Like an actual tomahawk, yeah. He's like, yeah, we are going to see your father. And he's like, this is what the movie's about. I'm like, wait, what? I was like, the crew knew, and I didn't even know, because I was producing it. I was producing the movie. I did not plan on being in it.
Right.
So yeah, that was halfway through sitting in the RV with my crew was when I realized that it was, oh, right.
So you get to a town in North Carolina where your father lived, and there was this Angela Shelton who...
It was in South Carolina, but yeah.
South Carolina. So you get to this town in South Carolina where your father lives. You haven't seen him since you were, 14?
14.
And there's an Angela Shelton there who tracks sexual predators for a living. Was she like a private eye or something?
It was part of the police station where they keep an eye on them, like anybody that had been registered. Right. Registered sex offenders, which is why my father wasn't on her list of her area, because he was never registered. So... You get there, and did she go with you? Did you go visit him? She was in the RV with a bulletproof vest on, actually. She didn't come to the door with me because we decided not to do that. But she was in there. So you walk up to your father's front door on Father's Day with a camera crew. Yeah. And knock on the door. Pretty much. Who answered? He did. What did he do? You really want to know? No, I'm just asking. He kissed me. Like, actually on the mouth with a little bit of tongue. Can you believe that? You've never told me that before. Isn't that crazy? Wait, we've been friends for it was not something that people ask, but that's something that nobody has asked me. This is the beauty of a podcast. You find out crazy shit. Yeah, he full on hug and kiss, but happens so fast. You know what I mean? You're like, somebody grabs you and they, a little bit of tongue. Yeah. That happened.
I don't know. That might even be too much to put in this podcast.
What? No. Because it's like, that's it, man. It's like, why? That's the stuff we have to talk about. Like, how do you heal from that? Well, I mean, that's
so after
intense shit.
Punched him in the stomach and slapped him across the face. Then what happened?
No, I didn't. I went into like freeze mode because me with my dad, I was always the one talking about healing your shit. I was, I wanted it. I was the one that I wish he chose me as a little kid. That's how fucked up.
Right, like someone else is getting more attention.
Yes,
whatever that attention is.
He sexually abused my stepsister far worse than me. And I know, like in the healing world, it's like a boo boo. Like no, like Courage to Heal, the Bible of healing. Don't compare. It says in there, don't compare your abuse to somebody else. Like so. I learned years later that wasn't fair to my own healing to compare. Like still I had been through abuse and had my own healing to do just because my sister was abused and worse.
And so this made you realize that you're a damaged person. How damaged did you see yourself being? Did you suddenly realize that you had a shitload of work to do?
Wow. Why do we have to use that word? Damaged.
Oh, I thought you meant work.
I don't mind work. I love work. I'm a workhorse. But there's, damaged. I've never felt like, damaged. It's more, I guess you always pick your word, which is one of the ones we'll go over in the 101 Ways to Heal That Shit, is, the negative thoughts in your head. And mine was not it was more like, ugly, unworthy, not picked, not chosen, goes back to not being the one that was brought into the molester room. It wasn't until I finished the documentary and I was traveling with it. I went on Oprah and it was like a big boom. There was a whole bunch of press about it. And I was traveling, speaking to survivors and speaking at colleges. And then that was when I started to realize, like, oh shit, I have a lot of stuff I have to deal with. Because it was talking to other people. And I don't remember. It was either Kentucky or North Carolina. There was a young college girl that was really just a beautiful young girl that started telling me, because I have that thing where people tell me their deepest, darkest secrets they've never told anybody. And she starts telling me how she hates herself and how she abuses herself and beats herself up. And she was a cutter. And I'm telling her that, like, wow, you're so talented and beautiful. And I find that was when it clicked for me that I was talking to myself. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize, like, oh shit, I did that. Because there was a time, and I talk about this in my book. I mean, is of realizing that I beat myself up. And now, like, I literally beat myself up. Like, I would smack myself and shit. Like totally like American Beauty. Like that scene, where she's like smacks herself. I used to do crazy shit like that. And it's in my world now, it doesn't even come up. Like that is not an option. It's not even not an option. It's not even on the columns anymore of the Excel spreadsheet. Like I don't even think about that anymore after having done all this healing work that we will share. But it was talking to other people. That was when it clicked for me, like, oh shit, you have some stuff.
So, and that's actually really valuable, because now that you mention that, if I think about people who with very good intentions and probably very effectively, let's say they put out a book or they put out a video series or something like this about how to deal with the trauma that you've experienced in life. And a lot of times that's really useful stuff. But with you actually going out there and meeting people at all these different speaking engagements and learning their stories and realizing, presumably, that there was a lot of similarity to people's stories. And if there's a lot of similarity to people's stories, then hurts that have been put upon people can be undone if they're just recognized. If I drank a lot, right? If I can recognize, well, it's because you were there with me drinking a lot. So we drank a lot, and not that drinking necessarily means that there's something wrong with you, but taking substances and jamming them into the empty hole within your stomach.
Yeah, like smoking. I smoked 3 packs of cigarettes a day.
Yeah, because you feel this sense of pain and hopelessness and emptiness that cannot be filled up with anything. There's probably a reason for that. We are not born with that.
Yeah.
And so you would have learned that very well when meeting all these survivors of all.
Yeah, well, it was also exhausting. And that's what I learned about compassion fatigue. Because my therapist at the time, I had a therapist way back during that time, who eventually fired me, which was glorious and hilarious. And she's like, yeah, you're done. Bye. That's a fun time. But anyway, she said, when I was on the road, like literally there was some months that it was 24/7. I never went home for like 30 days straight. And she said, listen, I believe you have compassion fatigue. And I didn't even know that was a thing. I was like, that sounds like a martini. The compassion fatigue. I'll have a double.
That would actually be a very good martini.
It would be, right? I remember that. We were going to do that at a conference. We even had the Army of Angels conference. I mean, we've been doing this a long time.
You met a whole bunch of people, huge amounts of people in the healing, the trauma world that taught you that there was work that can be done to help heal yourself. And it's not even just a matter of that there's work that can be done to make you a better person or a faster thinker or something like this. There's actually work that's absolutely crucially necessary that you do on yourself because you've been hurt as much as if someone had stabbed you.
And that is actually when I had that vision of the sword of trauma. And it was around the time when I met that lovely girl who was a self-mutilator. I can see her, and I don't remember her name, but she had a profound effect on me. And I realized, like, visually, because I'm an artist and I have to work, like I do work visually, I saw like, oh, all of this trauma that we all have, because they're all different. They're not same stories, but they're all similar effects on us. It's like getting pierced in the body with a sword. And that's what my healing course is about. That's what the workbook is about, is like getting pierced with like the sword of trauma. And you can live like that. Like, we can all live wounded. We can all live with your Excel spreadsheet, and you can pop pills, and not to say that pills are bad, because some people need those pills. Please.
Which presumably is what someone like your father was doing.
Yeah. Like, he's definitely wounded, and you exist, and he's wounded by the sword of trauma. Yeah.
And then passing on those wounds to the next generation.
Exactly. Until you actually heal it, which hurts to pull it out. Like, imagine if you had a sword in your body, it's going to, hurt. But it doesn't have to hurt for very long. It's not like it's going to hurt the rest of your life. That's what I'm like, I am a bit of a workaholic. God, yes, it's true. But I want to move on. I got things to do. And I want to do fun things, and I don't want to be sitting around and weeping and moping about the fact that my dad tongued me. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, oh, fuck, let's talk about that. Let's, so inappropriate.
Well, to be honest, I do find it interesting that you've never actually mentioned that particular thing before.
Crazy, right? Nobody asked me.
That's the worst thing, maybe.
Yeah. Crazy.
Right. Well, we'll unpack that. Shortly.
But wait. I was going to get to something, because it's like the point is, that I want to move on. I want to move on.
Right. You don't want to sit unpacking your shit for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
There's probably a bit more to life than that.
Yeah. So I went on a search. So those people inspired me to go on a search for not just talk therapy. I don't want to be in talk therapy for the next 25 years of my life.
Psychodynamic therapy.
Yeah. So it's like for the first, you know, you're going to pay the $250 or the $125 or whatever it is in whatever city you live in, and you're going to go once a week for 55 minutes or 50 minutes and yada, yada, yada. I'm just like, oh, God.
Well,
so
sorry, just to interject, not that there's anything wrong with psychodynamic therapy. It's actually quite helpful to some people.
This is why you are an integral part of this process. Because I want, like, you know, I was in LA at the time, so I'm like, I want to do crystals. And I tried everything. You know, there's a gong that can go over your vagina that can heal. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff. Bong. I've talked about that many times. It's very funny.
I was going to say, because we filmed a lot of these healing things back in the day. Pre-YouTube.
Yes.
But I don't think we did the gong over the vagina bit.
No, we didn't.
We didn't. No.
There's another thing that was inappropriate, actually, that I don't think I ever talked about. At that one particular place that I felt so safe, and I loved that place so much. It was called Dance Home. It was in Santa Monica. And they did some cool, like, meditative healing stuff. And there was one little creepy dude who, like, I was in such a awesome place, like, laying on the floor in some yoga studio listening to, like, wow, 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 that kind of stuff.
Didgeridoo.
Wow.
The didgeridoo can heal pretty much anything.
Oh, that's awesome. We should have a didgeridoo.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's it. So, and he came over and I was like in a place where you're not in your body, you know, and he touched.
No.
Yes. He touched his hand on my solar plexus.
Yeah.
And it was just like, what the fuck, dude? What the fuck? And it's just, and then I stopped going there. I went one other time and he was there all creeping out and like weird looking at me. And I was like, dude, this is so fucked up. Now, the healing I've done since then,
right,
I probably
remove him from the center. Yeah.
Yeah. But then I just was like, yuck.
Well, that's that freezing up again thing. Mm-hmm. Right? Like it's like, I can't make a fuss about this. I'm just completely frozen and I'm just going to take a deep breath and walk away.
Yeah.
Right.
Or sit down next to your dad and get him to sign that release. Good. Creepy.
So he denied everything when you interviewed him for the film.
Yeah.
And have you ever heard from him again?
Oh, yeah. A couple times. I reached out to him for Oprah, when I was on Oprah, and asked, you know, if he wanted to be on because they wanted me to call and ask, and, you know, that whole thing. And he's accused me of only being out to make money. I was like, what?
With a documentary about sexual abuse.
No. And then he said some weird thing. It was like, well, this is like when the kettle is calling the pot black. It's like, oh, okay. I don't, you know what I mean? It's like these non sequitur weird, like Haley's comments. And,
that mystical like, Haley's comment. Maybe we can talk a little bit about what to expect in future episodes. Obviously, there are like about 100 things.
We have 101 things over here.
Wow, more than 100.
Some examples are how to get out of a panic attack, going into the forgiveness phase. There's scream closets. That should be fun. That's a good way to get over, to let things go out of your body. So these are all ways, most of the things listed are things you can do in your mind or in your head without anyone seeing you do them. So there's breathing techniques. A lot of these techniques I have shared and my...
I have a scream closet in my head.
And also sex. Yeah, I know, your face. Look at your face. You're like, I left porn. Yeah, sorry. I mean, it's like, these are things. I know you look, you have a creepy, uncomfortable look on your face.
Well, I'm British.
There's two main things people have a problem with. Crying or getting angry. So these are all, there's a bunch of techniques on here are just to purge it out of your body. Setting up healthy places to grieve.
What a good idea.
Yeah. You're so funny.
Am I? No, that's a really good idea.
And look at it.
And like that shit, I'm healing.
And then come in to, is it my shit, your shit, or our shit?
A mo, a mass, a mat. A mamus, a martis, a mant. That would sound a lot more impressive.
With a didgeridoo.
A mo, a mass, a mat, a mamus, a martis, a mant. 101 ways to heal that shit.
What does it mean?
It's just the verb conjugation of love. I love, you love.
This is the perfect way to end with that because it's about love.
Yes.
And
exactly.
I love myself. I love you.
Yeah.
I love so many people that I've met so much. And I was like, you know what? If you're sitting in your car or if you're working out and you go on a hike, which you should be doing, and you listen to a podcast that's like gets into healing that shit, then that makes the world a better place.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast with Angela Shelton and yours truly, Aly Drummond. Music was composed and performed by Leah Finkelstein and Heather Stewart. I don't think we're done though. Hang on a sec.
But hold on.
No.
Till next time.